I know you have commented before on the pastor in Calgary who called the police the Gestapo. He has since been arrested. Do you feel freedom of religion is under attack in Canada, and what should we do?
I understand you even have a little video clip here, so
There is some footage
let's
there.
run that and we'll
There
keep
is some
talking through
video
it.
footage of him there.
It's kind of the most brutal part of this, which shows Pastor Arthur Pawlowski being arrested. It looks like a major highway somewhere there. See a Deerfoot Trail. There's a sign for that. And certainly this is a scene we had never expected to see in Canada. And it's very different from the other scenes, because in the other scenes where the police came to his church, they kind of, he yelled at them and called them Gestapo and Nazis. And you could almost see the shoulders sagging of the police officers. They kind of meekly left. You know, I don't know. I don't think you're getting me into trouble by this, but it is a very contentious and complicated issue. I would say this is a tragedy on many, many levels. I feel very conflicted about this. Tragedy number one is I do not agree with Pastor Pawlowski calling Calgary police Gestapo and Nazis. They're not. They're not. Even as bad as that scene looked, if they were the Gestapo, he would have been dead by now. So bearing false witness, that's a tragedy. And it doesn't help the gospel. Another tragedy is how freedom of speech is under attack and how the police has power to limit freedom of speech. As much as I disagree with the good pastor calling the police Gestapo, I support his right to do so. That's freedom of speech. I would support his right to stand on the street corner and say whatever he wanted. And so I see freedom of speech is under attack, and that ultimately can lead down the slippery slope of limiting freedom of religious worship, which is guaranteed in our Charter and of Rights and Freedoms. And another tragedy in this is that the police did interrupt the sanctity of a religious service. That a tragedy is the government's overreach, in my opinion. I think churches should have been left on their own to use their own responsibility. We are very responsible people. We're believers in Christ. We could have self-governed this and done spacing out in services, etc. And so I think the government has overreached with the lockdown rules. And so this is so tragic on so many levels. The failure of our government, here the police, the way they're acting, and someone says, well, I haven't lost anything. I can still worship God. No, we all lost something. We never thought in our lifetime we would see a situation where the government would actually restrict our freedom of religion to gather together. We never thought we'd see that. So now we wonder, when will it happen next? We never thought we would see police interrupting a church service. So we've all lost something, and much could be said about those, but those are some of my comments, Megan, and I can't wait to hear what our viewers think. I'm sure they're going to send the comments or maybe phone calls, and we bless the pastor. We may disagree with some things, but we bless him. Well, over to you, Megan.
Next question is coming from Zoe. I don't hear a lot about fasting in my church. What does the role of fasting have in our Christian life?
You know, I have a tendency to feel a little condemned when I hear the word fasting. I look down here and say, have I expanded too much, you know? So I answer from that context. Of course, fasting, it can be many different aspects of fasting. In the book of Isaiah, it says also that fasting, the fasting that the Lord wants is the one that sets captives free, that helps people, that reaches out to people, which we've been talking about this week. So I think obviously fasting is good for us. I practice a little bit of it, not enough. And it's setting ourselves aside to focus on God. On the other hand, I think also that, you know, it can lead to a sense of false pride where people are constantly talking about their fasting, and then they're crediting some answer to prayer or some spiritual success or advancement in their life to their fasting. And so I always say, in some countries I visit, there's a tremendous emphasis, and pastors feel like they must fast so many days a month. And I say, you know, fasting is only mentioned twice in the New Covenant era, that is after the day of Pentecost, only twice. Once in the context that they were fasting in the church in Antioch, and then the Lord spoke about sending out missionaries, Paul and Barnabas. And the other time, and the only other time it's mentioned, is a warning Do not fast so much that you forget having sexual relationship with your spouse. So those are the only two mentions. So some people put such a focus on it, and I would caution against that. Again, I am trusting Jesus Christ and what he has done and his grace for any spiritual advancement in my life. So again, food for thought. That's all I'm going to give.